continuing in a series of what it is we really believe, and today we're going to talk about the Holy Spirit. Before we do, I want to give you just a brief summary so we can remember where we are. We begin by talking about God and recognize that God is a God of holy love. There's only one thing you remember in this whole series, that should be it. That there is a perfect balance between the holiness of God and the love of God. That His expectations are always balanced by the provisions of His very nature and His grace for our lives. We moved into looking at man. We recognize man was created in the very image of God, and yet he's fallen. And the issue of his fallenness brings a darkened understanding to mankind, and the basic sinfulness for us as mankind is that we do not believe. The essence of sinfulness for mankind is unbelief. And so God stepped into our world in a powerful way in the person of Jesus, who ministers to men that do not believe. And His ministry among us has often been identified as prophet and priest and king. That He speaks to us prophetically about our situation, makes provision for us through atonement to be reconciled to the Father, and then literally reigns over our lives as the King of our lives. Now we come to the fourth element of our systematic study, and we've got to talk about the Holy Spirit. The essence of the ministry of the Holy Spirit, as He takes all that Jesus has accomplished and makes it very real for us, He actualizes it for this very moment. The reality of what God has done in our lives becomes powerfully real for this moment through the Holy Spirit, and no other way. In John's Gospel, there are 12 mentions of the Holy Spirit. The first deal with the Spirit being poured out upon Jesus. The second half, or the second 6, deal with the Spirit being poured out upon us as His children. The middle reference is John chapter 7, verse 37 to 39, where Jesus stands up in the Feast of Tabernacles and says, "If anyone's thirsty, let him come to me, and out of his belly will flow rivers of living water." And John tells us he's talking about the Spirit that men are going to receive after Jesus has been glorified. Part of that powerful message is that regardless of all the religious ceremony and the pomp and circumstance of the Feast of Tabernacles, Jesus still recognizes there are men who are thirsty. Being thirsty, though, is not enough. We must literally believe and drink in order to know the filling of the Spirit in our lives. May God help us somehow to believe that what He's accomplished for us through Jesus is available through the Holy Spirit. May we believe and drink and know the fullness of Christ and His Spirit in our lives. Take this time this week to look at John chapter 7, verses 37 to 39. And thank you for joining us today for just the meat and potatoes.